I know. You're reading the title and saying, hey, Sean, hey, Eric, hey, Rachel, what's going on? There's supposed to be a part 2 of the podcast from the questions from last week's episode of the Any Given Monday podcast. However, to be totally honest with you, it's all on Rachel. Rachel, what's going on this week?
Yeah, we have, I suppose, inflicted ourselves, that's kind of not the right word. We have forced you to listen to just the 3 of us for quite a long time. So we have finally got a guest back on. And I suppose this, we love having guests on. Sometimes it just doesn't work out with us trying to fit in the schedule and things like that. So when we do have guests on, we really appreciate them giving us their time and their honesty. So this week we have the incredible Dara Blake coming on to chat to us. So Dara and I met over in Melbourne earlier this year or end of last year. And he is just an incredible guy from County Clare. He's going to share his story with us, but it's a very great listen. I do highly recommend it. And, we talk about training, but, we talk about mindset and other elements as well. So definitely give it a listen and hear what he has to say. Eric, you should definitely tune in because Dara took up swimming over COVID. And being from County Clare and near the beach, you'd kind of imagine that was something he was pretty good at growing up. But we can't judge. Just because you live by the water doesn't necessarily make you a good swimmer. And Eric and I have talked several times about our fear of swimming and just that anxiety we get getting into the open water. So it's incredible to hear someone kind of overcome that and, make it part of their everyday life. So I'm really excited.
Fine line between swimming and drowning. I'm looking forward to this one.
You'll be fine. What is it? From this week, you have 15 weeks till you're
17. I've got those extra 2. This is my week to learn how to swim. This is my week to learn how to swim.
So, you really have no excuses. But I'm not going to say any more. It's all in this episode. But do give it a listen and let us know what you think.
Part 2 of the questions
over
come
to the
next
intro.
week. But hit the music now for this week's episode with Dara Blake. Let's go.
Dara, you are very welcome to an episode of the Any Given Run Day podcast. We are delighted to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be on here. Hopefully you don't ask me anything about my running times or anything like that compared to yourself. I'll be well down the scale, but no, it's absolutely brilliant to be on here having a chat.
Oh, well, I'm not sure about that, but we'll definitely ask you about your swimming and your swimming times, but we'll get to that later. I suppose we'll just give a bit of background, starting with, I suppose, how we met so randomly. You're living in Australia, you're living here a lot longer than I am. But would you say, having lived abroad, that Irish people have a way of finding each other?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think our story is just that. We met on the beach, and must have been about close to 7 a.m. in the morning in the sea. So we're doing a thing called a feel good dips. It's where you do, it's this group they've set up, kind of breath work and meditation, and then everyone gets in the water and just does a gratitude circle and things like that. But the forces of the universe were we ended up being beside each other, heard the Irish accent, and then just had a good chat with yourself in the water. So that was our story, getting to meet each other. So,
and I reckon there was 4 Irish people at that event, and I reckon the 4 of us ended up in the exact same spot in the water on that day. So we definitely, whether the accent draws us in or we can just sense there's an Irish person around, but we all just happen to look around and be like, hang on a second, you sound Irish. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, I mean, you described that that event that we were at perfectly, the Feel Good Dips. And it is just a nice way of, waking up, getting into the water, getting some fresh air. And like breath work is, I think a lot of people are starting to incorporate it into maybe their training or their recovery. But before we get into, I suppose, a bit more about you and swimming in particular, give us a bit of background about yourself. I suppose mainly your sporting background. So you are from Lahinch, County Clare. So tell us a bit more about yourself.
I'm actually from Liscannor, which is beside Lahinch, but I usually tell people, everyone knows where Lahinch is, so that's where I'll go. I'll just throw that caveat out there first. But yeah, grew up there in Lahinch. I've got two brothers, one older, one younger. They're both mad into sport. My mum and dad as well. My dad owned a local business, so we always had kind of tourists come and go, and we had a restaurant and a hostel and things like that. And my mum was a local primary school teacher, so followed in her footsteps. So mum and dad were they're very hard workers kind of growing up, and we always had the tourist business. So that time of the year was pretty busy during the summer, especially when there was surfing going on. And good lot of my friends would have surfed growing up, but I never really got into it. I played a lot of, wasn't actually too great in school growing up, and a lot of my identity was playing sport, I guess, and all through primary school and secondary school, it was all just sport and sport like that. So got to uni, was, I guess, playing football with the university team, and I was playing football with my county team as well, like that. So a lot of my identity kind of growing up was all around sport, and a lot of my positive reinforcement was all about sport. And I guess that I got a lot of value from sport, where a lot of people do get a lot of confidence and things like that. And I guess as I've got older, I've kind of learned I've had to leave that behind and become a whole different person nearly, because you're getting all these, I guess, positive reinforcements. You're around, I guess, a lot of like-minded people when you're playing in these sports teams as well, and you're getting a lot of credit and praise as well, I guess. And then I guess when I came to Australia 10 years ago, I was kind of seeking out something like that, a challenge where I could, learn more about, I guess, intrinsic value about myself and things like that. And it was only till really when COVID struck that I started getting in the water and swimming, and I wasn't a great swimmer whatsoever. Still not a great swimmer, but I really enjoy it. And so I actually love telling stories now. So this is a story. When I was in Lahinch, when I was younger, I wanted to join one of the swimming clubs there, or that swimming club in Lahinch, but I couldn't join it because I think I was in a school lesson before, and I was a bit of a messer, and the guy who ran the club, he wouldn't let me join. So all through my teens and 20s, and when I came to Australia, I was like, oh, I'm not a great swimmer, and it's all this guy's fault. It's not my fault at all. So didn't take any ownership of that. But eventually I said I'd start swimming, and I guess to make a long story short, I ended up swimming every day for 365 days during COVID, and I learned a lot of lessons and a lot about myself on the way. One of them there goes back to that story about blame. I remember it was a beautiful Australian summer's evening, and I was out in the middle of the bay plodding along and swimming. I was like, oh, I'm such a talking to myself, telling him I'm such a terrible swimmer, and it's all this guy's fault, not my fault. So then I just got a premonition. I said, listen, I wouldn't be out here in the bay. I wouldn't be swimming. I wouldn't be enjoying this beautiful evening or this beautiful sunset if I'd swam, like that when I was younger. So I guess finding the meaning in a lot of stories, whether good or bad, is something that I like to reflect on all the time. And it's Shakespeare's quote, isn't it? There's there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do think like that's so relevant today. Like people get really lost in their identity, like being one thing or another, and not feeling like they can be more than one thing. Like, oh, you're good at sports, so you can't have an interest in reading, or, you know, oh, you're really academic, so you mustn't be any fun. You know, I think that a lot of people growing up do struggle with that identity. And as you said, sport, as great as it is, when you're constantly getting that, you know, reinforcement from it, being told how great you are at it, it can set you up negatively as well, because then you kind of expect that success across your whole life. But then if things start going bad, whether it's in sport or not, how do you deal with that? Like, and I think it is important to fail in a sense, because then failing helps you to grow, but it might also help you realize, okay, maybe I'm good at other things as well as this, and maybe I can be bad at this some days, but that doesn't, having a bad day doesn't make you bad at it.
That's a beautiful point. And you probably get like, you know, all the accolades you would have got from your running going up, and I can probably mirror that a bit. Like if I played a good game, I was elected all week. I was happy, and it was, you know, great with my family, great in all my relationships. But if I played a bad game, you know, the papers would like give you a bad rating, and you'd know yourself you played a bad game, and that was my self-worth. I was like, I've no confidence now. I'm a bad person this week because I played a bad game. And it's a great lesson. And I love the point you brought up about that kind of intrinsic value that you know, sport gives brilliant things, but, you know, learning those lessons as part of sports teams and clubs and, you know, individual sports is a big thing that I've had to learn over the last couple of years. And about the failure as well. It's, you know, it's easy to say it's okay to fail, but when you don't know how to express emotions, how you're feeling, you know, generally with guys especially, it's like you're either, you know, you're happy or sad. There's nothing like you know, the vocabulary around it's so important. I think, you know, words like you're frustrated or you're anxious or you're nervous, you know, you can do something with the word frustrated, where you know, you can't really do anything with the word you're feeling sad, like, or you're feeling happy. Whereas, you know, you have a process to work through words like that. And just, you know, I guess teaching people, and you probably see it a lot with your teaching as well, just teaching, you know, young people about the language around emotions, I guess, is a big thing. And I love what you said about failure. Now, how about yourself now? How did you deal with failure?
That's a very, very good question. Like, again, I suppose my family would probably joke that I'm a nightmare to be around, but like they're all the exact same. Like my three brothers play for the local senior GAA team. So you can imagine when they have a bad day, you can't talk to them. My dad is so invested, my mom is so invested in it as well, that they have a bad game, and sure, the world might as well end. Like, you know, personally as well, I think it's just something, and I don't know whether it's different coming from an individual sport versus a team sport, because as an individual, when you maybe didn't succeed or didn't do as well, that would always be, I'd always feel like that was me. What did I do wrong? You know, did I not do enough? And I don't know whether that's different for a team, whether on a team, if you don't succeed as a team, do you still blame yourself in the same way? Because definitely in running, like if I have a bad day, I've messed up. So I'm going to be like a bull. Again, it's kind of that maybe silence in the car on the way home, maybe a bit snappy, definitely not able to deal with it as a teenager. And yeah, it's just interesting for me thinking now, if I had been part of a team, would that experience of failing have been different? Like my brothers at least have each other. Like they might all be in a bad mood. They mightn't talk to each other, but at least they know inside that, okay, well, we're going through the same thing. But does then maybe if you're on a team, do you shift the blame to someone? Whereas if you're individual, maybe did I take that on board a bit better and improve myself better, instead of a team being like, oh, well, he's the person who lost it for us, so I don't need to change. You know, just throwing these questions out there. I don't know what the team dynamic is like compared to individual.
There's definitely a lot of area for growth in individuals and teams there, I think. And those points that you raised about, I guess it's about being honest with yourself. And I know it's a word thrown out a lot these days, but like vulnerable with your teammates and asking for feedback on different things, and, you know, doing a bit of self-reflection as well on your failure, and I guess normalizing it as a kid. You know, there's, you know, just because you didn't get a plus in a maths exam doesn't mean like you're a bad person. You could have got a plus on the yard today for being a great friend, but that's not very, you know, it's not really like, you can't really judge that when you're a kid, or you can't, like, in society we don't kind of rate, I don't know the word I'm looking for. It's just your good deeds nearly, or you're like your
I suppose we don't rate how we treat each other, and, you know, I suppose our friendships and stuff as much as we rate our more concrete successes, like, you know, as you said, doing well in something or earning that medal or getting that score on the test, versus, okay, my friend was having a really bad day, I sat with them and I listened today. We don't, absolutely, we tend to be not as easy on ourselves with that. It's like we don't view that as, okay, that was actually a big success because you're helping them, but that's helping you to mature and grow as a person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done a good bit of work around myself, around just purpose over the last couple of years as well. And, you know, reading the Dalai Lama's book it's a book that I love. And he just talks about, you know, by giving more to others, it's a simple message, you get more back yourself. And talk about treat people how you want to be treated, but he kind of flips that. He says treat people how they want to be treated. It's not just necessarily that they're going to feel good in a way because you feel good in a way. It's like their perspective might be totally different to yours, but finding that sweet spot it's a magical place. And then, you know, having that purpose, and if I'm helping you out with something, and you know this as a teacher as well, and I'm sure you've trained people along the years as well, you know, by them succeeding, you succeed, and, you know, celebrating their success is, you know, better than any success yourself, really. And that's, you know, that's a value that I hold strongly. And with going back to the swimming, I guess I never really wanted to, like, never even set out to swim, you know, 365 days in a row. But it was kind of like the journey along the way. The people I met was the real value. It's not me becoming like a capable swimmer now, or it's not me being able to swim certain times or distances, but it's like the people I met along the way and the community kind of that we built around the swimming. So we set up a group as well called the Snob Squad. So we're kind of a bunch of Irish, Americans, Australians, English as well, that are kind of based around St. Kilda area in Melbourne. And we started swimming during COVID, and that was our thing when there was big lockdowns happening. And, you know, we made a big kind of a great little community. And, you know, all the, I guess, all the major podcasters, Ben Bergwijn and he was talking about Harvard. I love Ben Bergwijn. He's a CrossFitter, but he's a really good podcast as well. But he was talking about a Harvard study there recently, and it was about, you know, community and connectedness. And he talked about the green zones all around the world and where they are, and it just all comes down to, you know, relationships and community. That's why, you know, these people are living longest, or these people are the happiest in the world, etc. And, you know, having those close relationships, that's what I found out best out of swimming in the sea for 365 days the year, is like building those relationships. It wasn't anything else. That's number one I found anyway.
I think that is an absolutely amazing achievement. Like, first of all, setting yourself that, you know, goal of like, I'm going to swim. That's just what I'm doing, to then it becoming this every single day for the year, because you're overcoming, you know, motivation, the weather, because even though we're in Australia, we still get crap weather sometimes. And then, you know, just the accountability. But I think that's why community is so important. And I think that's why a lot of people are probably turning to running and triathlon. And this is just my take on it. This is just what I think, is that they're individual sports. So the challenge is so individual. It is up to you. You're the person who has to put in the hours training. You're the person who's going to come out, compete on the day. But they have such good communities associated with them that you go for the personal challenge, but you succeed and you stay because of the communities that running, triathlon, cycling, swimming, like these individual sports have created. What would be your take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, I'm never going to be motivated to get up in the morning and run 21K and just swim 2 kilometers in the freezing cold sea. And I guess two things. Number one is, you said the community around it. Just you're not going to do that on your own unless you're, you know, extremely driven. I know I'm not. I wouldn't do it on my own, definitely. And then, like, the accountability that you have with people. You know, we go for coffee after our swims. People bring breakfast for other people. That's why you go. You have fun. You have the laugh with the people, and you get the work done. And it's such a great point about triathlon clubs and you know, running clubs and swimming clubs that are set up now. It's the community aspect of it. It's about being part of something. It's like, almost, especially in the sea. And I love the point you made about, you know, the weather's not always great in Australia. In Melbourne especially, it gets really, really cold in the water, and you know that you're suffering together. That's like, you're in the water, you're absolutely freezing. Or if you're doing a triathlon, you know, it's never going to be easy, but you know the people in your group are suffering through that pain as well. And they'll give you inspiration, and hopefully you might give them a bit of inspiration to get over the line as well, because it's you're going to have a lot of demons in your head, a lot of angels and devil moments where the devil is taking over, saying, you know, you can't do this. Why the hell are you doing this? This is nuts that you're doing this. Why don't you just stop? But then if you have that support, you have that community around you, and one person is doing it, you'll just go, oh, okay, I'll do another kilometer, I'll do another couple of 100 meters just because they're doing it, and people push you on. And I love that saying about the Clydesdale horses, you know, those big Clydesdale horses they used to in the Budweiser ad or something like that. It's like one of them can pull 8 ton, but two of them can pull 24 tons together. So it just shows that the power of community, or the power of getting around people is massive as well. So that's a nice way to look at it.
But I've talked a lot about kind of my triathlon experience. Like, it's something that, you know, I came to as an injured runner back in 2019, but didn't really take that big jump until the Irish summer just gone. But again, like that, I saw a guy from home. So I'm going to give a shout out to Martin. I just saw on Strava that he was going to this lake. And I was like, okay, you know, I know Martin is a great swimmer. I've known him through my athletics club my whole life. And I just reached out to him because I was like, my issue with the reason I hadn't done any more triathlon races was because, you know, the fear of the water. I don't even know if it was the fear. It was probably a combination of fear of the water, never having done it, not knowing where to swim, where to go, you know, not knowing any kind of water protocol, and, you know, just having no motivation or no reason to go. So I reached out, and suddenly my whole summer was spent traveling around to amazing lakes in the Midlands. And again, I would have never done that only for Martin and the amazing group that we had going to these. And that's actually something they went down for the first time yesterday. And I was a bit like, oh, that would have been nice to go and be a part of. But there's still, no matter where you go in the world, though, there are communities like that. But like, I had to reach out to them. You know, they're not going to assume you want to join and reach out to you. If you just take that initiative and just reach out and say, hey, look, I'm interested. What's the story? And, you know, the rest, you know, went on to do several triathlons in the past 6, 7, 8 months. And it was just taking that initial step.
That's such a brilliant point. And I actually love that, because sometimes you got to be your own hero. And taking that first step was brilliant, just the way you had it there. I'm sure you have a whole new batch of friends now just because you reached out. And I bet you they were delighted to have you on board and things like that. Yeah. So it's great when people reach out like that. And that very similar story to when I started swimming. It was just me, one of my friends, and he's a personal trainer as well, and he was putting it up on his Instagram, and then people just started, you know, reaching out to him and me, and, you know, it just became organic. You know, we had people coming down and said, oh, we'll just try it for a month, see, can I do a month without stopping? Some of our successes were we did this Galway Bay fundraiser, where this is when we just started out, and this was huge for me, and it was huge for a couple of people in the group. It was like you had to swim 13 kilometers in the month of August, because they do a swim from Clare to Galway, and it's 13 kilometers. So it, you know, it doesn't seem too much now, but at the time that was huge, like, and, you know, it was a big challenge for the group. So that was one as well. We actually have a bit of a love story in the group as well, Rachael. Two people started coming down, and they're now with each other, and they're moving in with each other soon enough. So that was a big success as well. Yeah. What else do we have? We had the St. Kilda. This is a crazy story now. So the St. Kilda Football Club got on to me, and there's a guy I know, he's the head of their fitness basically with St. Kilda, and they're doing really well this year. So he got on to me, and he was like, oh, I hear you've got a group I see that swim in the bay every morning. Would there be any chance that you would come down with the group on Tuesday morning for the next 6 weeks with the St. Kilda team? You know, help them in the water and do all these activities with them and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, I'll think about it. But yeah. Secret, yeah. I was like, it was straight away, it was a yeah. And so we did that last November. We were training with the St. Kilda boys and elite athletes, absolutely. So
like peak fitness.
Yeah, so that was something that came out of it as well. And we've done things with Darkness into Light as well. We've done fundraisers for them. So it's really rewarding what we've done. But it's just, again, going back to your point on community, that's what it's all about, just getting people involved and suffering together. We love a bit of pain and suffering, getting into the cold water.
I think we only love the pain and suffering because we love to complain about it, especially Irish people. I think that's the only reason a lot of us go through it, is so we have things to complain about, you know, and the worse it is, the more mileage you're going to get out of this complaint.
Yeah, absolutely. And during COVID, people had nothing majorly to complain about during the lockdowns. So a lot of people lost that connection, you know, people going for a coffee, complaining about something or complaining about your sports team. There was nothing like that happening. So there's that loss of complaints. All right, was a loss of connection as well.
But a lot of people have started turning to swimming in recent years, especially like that early morning, like cold, like no wetsuit swimming for their mental health. And yet a lot of people claim that there's no such thing as a swimmer's high. You know, everyone claims that there's a runner's high, a cycling high. People say that there's no swimmer's high, yet so many people turn to swimming for their mental health. And like, I personally think there is a swimming high. I always feel great after it, you know, especially if you do it in the morning, it sets you up for your day. So there has to be something there. Like people aren't just making this up. They're not just doing it if it's making them feel shit. Like there are lots of benefits to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd agree with you. I think there is one as well. There's definitely a swimmer's high. You get, especially like going for a dip and getting into that cold water just like shocks you. But when you're swimming, I guess you can't think about anything else. Like you're just kind of surviving when you're out there, and it gives you, you know, almost that mindfulness or meditation. And I get the craziest things and some of my best ideas or worst ideas, however you look at them, when I'm swimming, and I'm just thinking about next stroke. Where do I have to go to next? And I think and what I loved about it as well, when I was doing it as well, there's no technology, there's no devices, there's no one can contact you. You're there with the people. You're basically there where your feet are. We used to swim out to one of the boys. It was 200 meters out in the sea, and you'd have some of your best chats out there because there was no interruptions, and it was just everyone was there. Everyone was full on, you know, full on present, I guess. And you know, I love that. Sometimes when you go out there, you're like, oh, at least a half an hour now. I don't have to have my phone, or no one can contact me, and that's what I loved about it as well. But it resets me, to be honest. And I, as I was saying, I'm a teacher, and I think my kids know me pretty well, and they ask me sometimes, you know, in the morning, you know, I might be barking out orders and telling them to do this and that, or talking about homework, and they'll ask me, Mr. Blake, did you swim today? Did you swim this morning? And like usually it's when I haven't swam in the morning. That's
they know about it.
Yeah. So they know me pretty well, and it really does it for me, because you feel like, you know, when you win the morning like that, you have something done for yourself that day, where no matter what happens for the rest of the day, you know, you've that one thing done for yourself, and it's probably going to be the hardest thing that you might have to do during the day as well.
But that seems to be like your motto or your mantra for the Snob Squad, is that win the morning. And I do think that is, you know, it's lovely, but it's so simple, yet it does capture what you just said, that if the rest of the day goes belly up, pear-shaped, whatever way you want to describe it, you've done that one thing for yourself, and one thing that you have been in control of.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of your listeners who are, you know, runners or triathletes, it's that time in the morning, because generally you have a pretty busy life, and given that time to yourself in the morning is basically sets you up for the day. And you know, if you do something hard, like, you know, do a 2 kilometer swim or a 10K run or whatever, 50k cycle in the morning. Like there's not too much harder than that. The rest of the day, if your boss is going down your throat, or you have some pressures at work or pressures in relationships or whatever it is, it's, you've dealt with that hard thing this morning, so you can deal with that. So it almost gives you a bit of a confidence. And Mark Twain's his quote on eat the frog. So if frog is the hardest thing you have to do throughout the day, you're as well off just doing it first thing in the morning, just so it's not on your mind all day and things like that. So that's another little quote that I like to go with.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, as great and all as sport is, it can make us feel really guilty, especially if you planned on training today and, life gets in the way. I mean, I've said it so many times how my training is so up and down because I'm a lot more relaxed these days. I don't mind if something gets in the way. But by getting up and doing it in the morning, it's done. You have that time anyway. Most people don't factor in anything in the mornings. So most of us have that time that if we just get up maybe a half hour earlier, we can achieve something like your swim, your cycle, or your run. And then, you can feel proud about that, because even if you go easy, you still had to make that decision to get up. You still had to get out the door. You still had to, achieve all of these mini goals to take that workout off the bucket list.
Yeah, and you can generally, not always, but you can control it in the morning as well, because you don't know when you're going to get a phone call that you have to go somewhere if you've planned to work out during the day or in the evening. But in the morning, it's your time, and you make it a habit. And I don't know if you've read that book. I can't think of the author, Atomic Habits, but it's just it just works for me that the morning time is when I get some of my best work done. So
yeah, I'm definitely a morning person. The dishes, just a good example. I have no interest in doing dishes after dinner. I will leave them. Yeah. This morning I was up, dishes were washed by 7 a.m. because that's just me. Work so much better in the morning. And that was just a simple task. I then went and got my run done. And for me, if I don't run first thing in the morning, I've such a love-hate relationship with running. It's kind of ridiculous. But if I don't run first thing in the morning, I will find every excuse not to have time to run. And that's all they are, excuses. But by getting up first thing and getting it done, I feel accomplished, because okay, that is something that I know would not have happened if I'd postponed it.
Yeah. How are you finding the weather, we'll say, in Perth running there, and compared to back in Ireland? Is it improving your training? I know you're probably not, you said you're probably not doing as much as you were, but
I'm doing more and less in weight, less running, but that's because I got my indoor trainer again for my bike, so I'm back cycling a lot. Joined a swim team, so I've been swimming a lot more. But it's hot here, so I did my first ever park run 2 weeks ago. Thought I was running great, felt like I was flying. But the humidity, and Perth isn't normally humid. Perth is normally stinking hot, but kind of the end of summer coming into autumn, it gets humid for a few weeks. And it was awful. You just feel like you can't do anything. I felt like I was working so well. And then you look at the time and you're like, oh God, that's not what I thought it was. So from that point of view, you do have to get adjusted to the weather. Running in Ireland, on a summer's day where it's maybe high teens, low 20s, if you're lucky, that is just perfect. Once you start getting high 20s into the 30s, then it gets a bit warmer. Suddenly your hydration and your nutrition, you have to start worrying about them a lot more. But I suppose I don't feel it as much when I cycle. Cycling in the heat, I don't think takes as much out of me compared to running in the heat compared to running in the cold. I definitely think that's that's the toughest one to adjust to.
Yeah, no, great point. And have you any events coming up, or is the season done? Or
season is done. Last one was 2 weeks ago, so I'm back. Sorry.
You always have to have something in the bag now, Rachel.
Well, I do. I Zwift race. I'm obsessed with Zwift. So you've just opened a can of worms here. I won't talk for the next hour about it. But I'm part of an amazing, again, the best thing for me about Zwift is my team. I'm part of the e-racing team, Team Rave, and that has just been such a life-changing experience. These women all over the world who I've never met, we meet up regularly, we race together, we chat while we're racing. Again, it's just the community aspect. So we're currently in the middle of a league. So that's kind of the goal for the next few weeks. And then, I don't know, I keep toying around with the idea of a 70.3 at the end of the year. So I reckon I've said it to myself so many times that I have to do it. So I think that will be it. But you recently completed a 70.3. Or did you do the full one?
Just the 70.3. Haven't done a full one yet. But I definitely
just as if it's not a massive achievement, just the 70.3.
I'm hanging around all these high achievers, and that's the language they use. So I'm trying to be fitting with the cool kids saying that as well. But I'd highly recommend it. I think it'd be great for you. Just literally sign up for it. It'll scare the life out of you. But again, the journey with the training, and if you can get a couple of people with you on that journey as well, it'd be awesome. So the one I did was in Melbourne, so it was literally, I live one street away from the start line. So I had a great day. So I was on home ground. The weather was amazing. It was about 8 or 9 of us doing it all together. So there was great buzz and great support. So that was good. And it was some people's first ones, most people's just second or third, but that sense of achievement and the nerves building up to it, all the training that we did together as well, and you get that close bond, because you know how hard it is. It's like, it is genuinely, absolutely, it's really hard no matter where you look at it. Like, it's, even if you're the most top athlete in the world, if you're doing a 70.3 Ironman, it's going to be hard. It's at some stages, and as I said before, there's demons in your head talking to you about, why are you doing this? What's the purpose? So you have to have a bit of work done beforehand, just telling them why you're doing it. Or
and I think most people listening to this will know where the name 70.3 comes from, but just in case there's anyone who's not familiar, that is the distance in miles that you cover in the event. So like, you're not just going out for your Sunday stroll, you're doing your almost 2 kilometer swim. In kilometers, how long is the bike in kilometers? It's 80, 90, isn't it? 90, yes, because it's 180 for the full 90 kilometer cycle, and then you follow that up with a half marathon. So any single one of those is amazing. Put all 3 of them together and people start asking you, are you crazy?
Yeah, we definitely get that. And definitely the people who do the full Ironman, or you have to take your hat off them, because it's phenomenal achievement, and training for something like that is absolutely unbelievable. But
so I know I can, personally, I know I can do all the distances. I just don't know if I can do them all back to back.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably the only thing that's stopping me. It's I did a half marathon last summer, just, part of a charity run. Had gone out with the intention of doing 5Ks. I stopped 21 kilometers later. It's I can run that. I know I can cycle 90 Ks. Yeah, it is. I think it is the mental side, like those demons though. Because if you've any sort of doubt about doing it, there's straight away, like, it's like, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Like, you open the slightest bit of your brain to that negative thought, it's going to start blossoming in there. And I think that's what makes the whole idea of the 70.3 challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're literally talking to your body from the run. Like, people ask you now, once you sign up, they'll ask you, what's your best leg and stuff like that. But I genuinely believe there's no kind of best leg, because, you know, you might be a good runner or you might be a good swimmer, but, you know, putting all those three things together is a total different kettle of fish. And getting onto the run from the bike, your legs just are absolutely jelly-like, and it's called brick training. As a lot of your listeners would know, it's just like going from the bike onto your run, and your legs basically feel like a brick for probably the first 2 kilometers. And you're having those conversations with yourself, and you're literally saying, not today knee, not today hip, we're going to get this done. Like, you're constantly having that, because there will be times in the race, well, this is my experience anyway, that, you know, something will start to hurt, or something will start to tighten up, or something will, you know, not feel right, or you might have taken too many gels on the bike and your stomach might be feeling great. And then getting into running, and you're trying to, you know, run at a certain pace, and you're watching your Garmin or whatever to say, am I doing an okay pace, or do I need to up this, or what do I need to do? So there's a lot of things going in your head there like that. But you literally, when I did my first one, I literally repeated "be where your feet are" like 20,000 times in my head. It's you know, when you're on the swim, you're like, you're thinking you're tired, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do a cycle and a run after this? But literally I kept on saying, be where your feet are, be where your feet are, be where your feet are. And then the same on the bike and on the run. You know, there's no point worrying about the next leg, or there's no point worrying about the next kilometer. It's just like, literally, we're here, we're now. So let's get that done.
And was that your first one?
That was my third one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And still a new challenge every time, I'm sure, like completely different to the last experience.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one I did was just, I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for, and I was, you know, very happy with the time. I was very happy just to get it finished. So then you automatically have a PB. And then, you know, the next ones we did was just ourselves. It wasn't an event because the Melbourne one was cancelled last November. So we did just event because we had all the training done and things like that. And then this one, I almost forgot how much pain you're going in, especially for the run part. So that was a bit of a challenge again. And I'm studying as well at the moment, so I probably hadn't as much training done as I would have liked. I missed a couple of weekends with uni and things like that, so that was going through my head, but as well, trying to give myself an excuse. But no, I was just very happy to get it done and very happy to get over the finish line.
Amazing. And what's next then? So I suppose, what's next in terms of what events have you signed up for? And also for the swimming, like, now that you have completed that milestone of 365 days, are you going to try and repeat that this year? How's it going? So 2 things.
Yeah, I still kind of swim every day, but I purposely just stopped, like, after about, I think it was about 500 days. I was like, all right, I'm not doing it today, because it was taking over. Even though I do enjoy it, it was like taking over my life a little bit. I was like, couldn't go too far away from the sea and things like that. But, so that was, but stop that now. So I've more probably a better relationship with that now. I just do it because I enjoy it, not because I have to keep my streak going. And then second question was what's planned next. So we have a couple of guys from the Snob squad are doing a full Ironman in Port Macquarie in 2 weeks' time. So I'm still training with those guys at the moment, not doing the exact same volume as them, but just still enjoying the training with them at the moment. As you're saying, the season is pretty much over for triathlons over here. So I'm going to go back playing a bit of footy with a club here. So that's my plan. And as I said, I'm studying at the moment as well. So that, but look, we'll still swim every day and still do all that kind of stuff. I've started actually CrossFit as well, just to
because you're not busy enough as it is.
Enough, exactly. Yeah. So I'm loving that as well at the moment. So
no, it sounds amazing. Well, just want to say thank you for coming on and sharing all of that with us. It's always nice to hear someone else's perspective. You never know, I might convince you to come over and do Busselton 70.3. I think it's December. I think it's the most beautiful one in the world. It's pretty flat, so you never know.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I hadn't said that I haven't watched about 20 videos about Busselton already. Yeah. But December, okay, that's, you're planting a seed.
Yeah, November or December. So there you go. Okay, I think don't be surprised now if I've signed up by the end of the week. I think I'm going to do it. Okay, I'm only just putting it off for the sake of putting it off. I think that's also, once you have the goal, you've no excuse. You're going to work towards it. So
absolutely,
yeah, there you go. That could be one that we could both aim for. And then we'll check in a few months' time and see how it's going.
Exactly. Yeah. Love that plan. Love when a plan comes together.
But thank you again for coming on. And yeah, it was just amazing to hear all about your experience. And like I said already, it was so insightful, and just how you've used sport and everything to nearly reinvent yourself in a positive way. So thank you again.
You're an inspiration as well, right? Thanks for having me on, and we'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.